Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Unlocking Tampa Bay. I am your host, Bryan Burns, and I'm joined as always by my wonderful co-host, Molly Barbieri.
What's up, everyone?
And in the studio today, we have Holden Rasmussen from Newman Cigar Company.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. I got to ask, I looked at your profile on the website. It calls you the company historian.
Yes.
That seems like, and we know you from, peel back the curtain a little bit. We send fams, journalists, media to J.C. Newman to do the cigar factory tour to get a good look at one of Tampa's greatest institutions, and really a place until I came here and worked for Visit Tampa Bay, I had never been on the tour, and I've been here 20 years. I'm like, how have I never done this tour before? After I did it, because this is one of the best tours in Tampa Bay and one of the coolest spots in Tampa Bay. If you haven't done it, please go and check that out. But how do you get that title of company historian? And that carries a lot of weight, especially with the amount of history that is happening at J.C. Newman.
Yeah, it does. The Newmans have always had a hand in writing history. The company founder, J.C. Newman, he wrote his own biography back in the 50s called Smoke Dreams. And then his son Stanford wrote a book with Forbes back in the 90s called Cigar Family. And to write these books, especially with Stanford and now Eric and Bobby Newman, the third generation, they actually employ historians. They got a guy from University of South Florida who's very prestigious. He's still around. He's a professor emeritus named Gary Mormino to help them write the history of Tampa and cigars. And then they have this other fella who's probably the world's authority on old cigar label lithographs, which is a whole history in and of itself, how they print the actual old cigar labels like this. And that guy's name is Glenn Westfall. So they would employ these historians to have them help write the history books for Newman. So I guess with the new generation, with Drew Newman, he wanted somebody who was passionate, committed to history, and kind of nerdy to be their historian in residence for all their future projects. And that's what I've grown into as my role.
So how did you, was this something that you had a passion for before you even came to J.C. Newman? Was this something that you grew into? How does that go down?
I actually was thinking about this the other day. I think in third grade, they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I wrote historian. Yeah. So I guess it worked out okay.
I would say so.
But yeah, I mean, I worked for a couple history museums up in Washington, D.C. when I was doing my intern routes in college. And then I did work for WSF, the NPR subsidiary station here in Tampa for a while as another internship. And I was working and publishing stuff about Tampa history. So when I saw the job position open up for J.C. Newman Cigar Company as company historian, I'm like, oh, absolutely. And it was just something that was a perfect hand in glove fit for me at the time. Yeah.
And I mean, were you into cigars at the time? Was that something that was part of your background?
No, half my family's Navy people. And I have a lot of veterans in my family, and they always bring cigars to family events, and we're always smoking cigars. It's just kind of a Florida thing, a veteran thing. But me personally, I was never a huge cigar smoker until I started working at the company. And you learn so much through osmosis, just hanging out with these people, not just the grumpy old Cuban guys that have been rolling cigars for 30 or 40 years, but also people who are, young men and women in the industry that it's just, you can't help but become an expert.
I'm not a cigar smoker. I've smoked cigars in the past. I'm not adverse to smoking them. It's just not, necessarily something that I seek out. Yet I'm fascinated every time I come to J.C. Newman, and I either take a tour with you or one of the other tour guides that are there. Look around the facility, the history, the room with the hand rollers. It's fascinating that you employ. There's probably 15, 20 people up there actively hand rolling cigars as we speak right now in a room where they're pumping in humidity to make sure that the cigar has the correct, I don't even know what you would call that, to make sure that the tobacco and the cigar leaf and everything is proper and what it needs to be. Then you have the old machines, the factory machines when are those machines? They look like they're from the 1920s.
Oh yeah, I mean, exactly. They're from the 20s and 30s. They're straight out of a history textbook. What always cracks me up is whenever you go to a bowling alley, you always just kind of see those weird CGI bowling pin animations where the bowling ball comes down and knocks down all the pins, and you see the AMF logo and you're like, okay, whatever. But turns out that company AMF that made all the bowling alley machines, the ball returns, pin returns, also made those cigar machines back in the 20s and 30s. So they're a century old. There are a few companies out there that make modern replicas in Germany, I think, but they're the last of their kind. They're the last of these great American machines from 100 years ago that were used all over the United States to manufacture cigars. People always forget Tampa, I mean, not just Tampa, the United States has an older, bigger cigar industry than Cuba. Our cigar industries go back to like 1810,
Yeah.
and we used to have over 40,000 cigar factories in this country making billions and billions and billions of cigars a year. It was a big industry.
Yeah.
And speaking of the last of its kind, J.C. Newman is the last functioning cigar factory in the United States, which is absolutely incredible. So it's just kind of great that you're continuing to also create history as you go. So yeah.
Last family-owned premium cigar manufacturer in the United States.
Like, there's just so much weight to that, and it's just really, really cool that we have it right here in Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, and especially you see a picture of our company founder. His name's Julius Caesar Newman. It's like a black-white photograph of a very dapper, bald gentleman in a three-piece suit, but he does not look like Desi Arnaz, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to be Cuban or Spanish to make cigars. That's the story that we have in Tampa. But all over the country, you had Irish guys, German guys, Jewish guys, Russian guys making cigars coming to America. Because in the 1800s, you showed up in a big city like Cleveland, you had three choices: make clothing, make steel, or make cigars. So it's something that everybody can identify with, not just the Tampa story, but also, Americans everywhere want to see what was famous 200 years ago, what was popular 200 years ago in our own backyard.
Yeah. Why do you think J.C. Newman has endured? After all these other cigar factories have shut down, why is it J.C. Newman is the one that's still standing and thriving?
I think part of it has to do with how committed the family is to their employees and to what an American cigar represents.
It seems like you guys are kind of a family when you go in there. Everybody has a great relationship with one another, and it feels like you can feel good vibes when you walk in.
We're very enmeshed in each other's lives, right? It is like a family in the sense that sometimes it drives you crazy, but there's nowhere you'd rather work.
Right.
It's very intimate. It's very close. And I think that commitment, maybe that stubbornness is why the Newmans endured like 40, 50, 60 years after most other cigar companies have gone out of business or moved overseas completely. So.
What are some of your favorite parts of the tour? Like, you give this tour, and how many do you give it? I mean, do you have like a couple a day? How many do you give in a week and a year?
We're working on it. It's obviously, a very tight operation. Just like with the folks who make hand-rolled cigars in our building, we've got a crack team of 20, 25 people to help make the handmade cigars, but only 10 to 12 of them are sitting down rolling the cigars every day, right? So just like that with the tours and the cigar rolling classes and all the other experiences that we offer, it's actually a very small coterie of people. It's like 3 or 4 people that give all the tours.
Yeah.
So we're trying to break it up a little bit and bring in more people. So we'll be onboarding in the future. But right now, what we offer is probably, let me think, like 15 to 30 experiences a week.
Yeah.
So tours, cigar rolling classes, and that's in a total annual visitorship, probably like 30,000, 36,000 people a year.
Yeah.
It's getting bigger and bigger.
That's great. And we've sent people to do the cigar rolling experience as well.
Yeah,
which that's,
lots of media. We've done a few experiences with it. But yes, everyone comes from all over the world because it's such a unique experience. It's very luxurious in the way that it's exclusive to Tampa, and it's just kind of a nice, I don't know, like a reason to come here. It's kind of and then just being able to explore Ybor City afterwards, it's just kind of it's a experience in itself, and like, you could make a whole trip out of it. It's really great.
Yeah, one of the biggest compliments and feedback we get, especially from your people that you send over from like the Netherlands or Mexico or Brazil or wherever, is that you can get so up close and intimate to it. It's not just history. It's not just going on a factory tour, like seeing where Louisville sluggers are made or Anheuser-Busch. It's actually, you get to walk up and actually like touch the machines in a way and see them like inches away from your face. It's kind of cool.
The cigar rolling experience, that's something, if you've never rolled a cigar, it's a lot harder than it looks. I mean, it takes, I forget exactly, and you can tell me what how long it takes someone to learn that skill, and then how long they have to kind of apprentice before they can sit down at their own desk and roll one of those cigars.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a tradesman's job, and going and becoming a cigar maker, you have to be in the factory working all the time. So it's not like an apprenticeship where you're learning how to weld or whatever, but it is like 2 years of training. You have to train for 2 years to be a competent cigar maker. So all the little niche things about, how do you pack the leaf just right inside the cigar so it's not too tight or too loose? How do you make it the right length? How do you make it this shape, that shape? How do you put the bands on? That is like 9 months of training we couldn't possibly impart to somebody in an hour. But what we do for the experience is we give you a chance to cut and roll the wrapper onto the cigar, essentially pass the wrapper over it. And that's hard enough already, but it's really something special, and it gives you more of an, again, intimacy with the tobacco than you would get from even going and touring some factory in the Dominican Republic or Cuba or Honduras or Nicaragua, because this is here in our backyard. It's something you can walk up and do as an American before and after a cruise, maybe when you're in town for one night, or if you're a Tampa local.
Yeah. I got to do the cigar rolling experience. It was tough. You were there. You were part of it, and you seem to know exactly what you're doing. Do you feel like you could be one of the guys that sits down and rolls cigars, like if you had to step in?
I couldn't be as fast, but I could definitely roll, a solid 5 cigars a day to their 120.
Yeah, is that what they do, about 120?
Yeah, if you have like a production factory with a worker sitting down, they can roll about 120 cigars a day.
That's amazing.
It's such an art too, because I mean, going upstairs and being able to just watch them, and like they're going, and like the way they cut, like they just know exactly what they're doing. It's kind of like a muscle memory for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, every single time I rolled a cigar, it does not look great. It's very loose. It just doesn't. It's like a really, I don't know, like your fingers just have to be super nimble. Like you have to have like a love for it too, I feel like.
Yeah, it's very hands-on. And it's actually, it's funny, you get so many folks where it's like, oh, I bought this for my spouse for their birthday. I bought this for their anniversary or whatever.
Yeah.
And they get a blue collar person coming in. The blue collar people pick it up like that.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause it's just natural. The hand-eye coordination is there. It's actually funny when you get like a team of lawyers or accountants in the room and they've all got to roll cigars, like, oh God help us. But nothing's changed. I mean, it's still this very hands-on, traditional, old world craft. And that's why we have all this stuff sitting around the factory where it's these rusty old cigar tools, but it's the exact same stuff we use today. Just the stuff now is a little bit cleaner and shinier. Like that machine right there, they actually just call it the machine in cigar factories mostly, or they call it a guillotine. It's what you use to cut the end of your cigar, so they're all the same length and size. They're all flat and pretty.
Yeah.
But that's probably 150 years old. A gentleman from Louisiana actually just donated it to us because he had somebody in the family pass away, and he had all these old cigar knives and cigar molds for the tobacco and guillotines like that he didn't know what to do with because he couldn't attribute or ascribe any monetary value to them. But he's like, I know there's one place in Tampa that will take them, no questions asked, and will proudly display them in their collection. That's us.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So.
To me, I think the coolest part about the cigar rolling experience is that you actually get to roll your own cigars that you can take home. Like you guys, you can roll 5 and then you take them home, and they have to cure for what, like 2 weeks before you're allowed to smoke, or before you should smoke them?
Yeah. So tobacco, when it gets wet, it has kind of like a certain barnyard taste to it. It's kind of musty. I like it personally because it reminds me of like the smell of leather or baker spices. But yeah, you probably should wait a little bit to smoke them, or else they'll be kind of wet and muted tasting. So you either smoke them right off the bench, or you wait 3 months, I would say. But whatever you roll, you take home with you. And it's cool because you get to have that full package where it's the cigars in the box with the bands that you can customize to a good extent.
Yeah.
And you get to have your own custom J.C. Newman box.
And you talked about the tobacco, and that was another thing I kind of found fascinating about the tour. Like when you go down in the basement, you show the different types of tobacco that you guys bring in to make the cigars. And it's almost a little bit like coffee beans, where you have coffee beans coming from like different parts of the world, whether it's Belize, whether it's Ecuador, different countries that produce these coffee beans. It's kind of the same thing with tobacco, and you're bringing tobacco leaves in from all over to make the cigars that you guys have. And you even said you had like what particular country that you like to get your tobacco from, that like you can taste the difference in the cigar smoke and when you're smoking it?
You can, yeah. I was at a cigar bar, and they had some sort of dinner where they had a roller there rolling cigars out of tobacco, and like there was just a sack of leaves there sitting, and I rolled one up and I smoked it. I'm like, this tastes like Nicaraguan tobacco from Jalapa. And there was a white card inside the bag, and it was Nicaraguan tobacco from Jalapa. So you can actually, it's like when people do those cupping events for coffee, and they can like stick their nose in the beans and know it's from Ethiopia's such
or like
and such
a wine
valley.
kind of.
Exactly.
Like people can do a whole little smell thing, which
the wine
I've
grapes,
never
the coffee, the
and they can like
chocolate.
tell exactly where it's from just based off of like
And
the
that's
aroma
what's
of
fun
it.
about it now.
Yeah.
It's romantic to think about the good old days when everything in Tampa came from this one particular area in Cuba called Pinar del Rio. But now we get tobacco from Indonesia, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Cameroon, Mexico, Paraguay, and we get to make these crazy nuanced cigars out of it and then sell them to people in Tampa. It's so cool. It's like there's this old Gore Vidal monologue he does where he holds up a pencil. He's like, this doesn't exist because you have to get the graphite from such and such place and the wood from such and such place and the rubber from such and such place. That's how cigars are. You have to blend tobacco from 3 different continents, and it all comes right here. It all converges. All roads lead to Rome. All roads lead to Tampa, rather. You know?
How long does it take you before you can get to that point where you can identify where a tobacco is from? Like, how long did it take you to acquire that skill?
You just got to slow down, I think. That's the biggest thing. When you smoke cigars, you just got to slow down and think about, what does this actually taste like? And then think about that compared to the next cigar.
Yeah.
That's what helps you concentrate.
So I feel like it's really, I mean, we've been talking so much about like the cigar history and like cigar industry like in Tampa right now, but it really all stems to the creation of Tampa. Like, the cigar industry basically created Tampa. Like, can you talk on that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. So obviously Vicente Martinez Ybor came here first, and he got a big loan from the city, from the Board of Trade from the city of Tampa to help develop Ybor City, build the first factories. But then he launched a real estate empire, and so did his rival, Ignacio Haya. They both developed East Tampa basically out of the swamp. There was nothing there, and they took bricks and granite that were used as ballast for their steamships, and they built roads, and they built factories, and they built housing. They built the cigar makers' houses, which we now just call casitas or whatever. But those are the neighborhoods of East Tampa, and kind of, I guess to an extent, Seminole Heights too.
Yeah.
You know, and not only that, not only did they develop the land, they also invested a lot in the people too. They helped bring jobs to Tampa, and they didn't just hire Cuban, Spanish, and Italian immigrants. They hired white and black Tampa residents. And more than that, the later cigar makers, especially the Newmans, the Cuestas, the Fuentes, they invested very heavily in Tampa's education. If you look at some of the big donors for like St. Leo University, University of Tampa, Jesuit, Academy of the Holy Names, it's not just the cigar manufacturers donating money, they're also donating land, they're donating property. They're propping up this next generation of Tampaños who, you didn't have to be cigar makers. They could be doctors or lawyers or dentists or whatever. And then with the Newmans, you know, they're a little bit distinct. They came later from Cleveland, Ohio, but they invested into Berkeley, and so Berkeley is a big result of the Newmans' influence here in Tampa and its education. So everything is a result of cigars in Tampa.
Yeah, I think one of the fascinating things to me, and you learn this kind of when you're on the tour, is that there was really no Tampa. It was Ybor City.
Yeah,
there was like Ybor City was like thriving, and Tampa was just this place on the other side that was kind of a little swampland with like a few, you know, businesses, houses, and whatnot, residents, but there was nothing really going on in Tampa. It was all Ybor City, which today you look at that and it kind of boggles the mind because Tampa's thriving right now.
So the opposite now.
Yeah, and I mean, Ybor's doing great, but like you think of like, well, of course Tampa came first, but no, it was all Ybor City before.
Right. When you look at the manhole coverings, it says July 15th, 1887. That was basically when Tampa annexed Ybor City. They saw that tax revenue and that potential for growth and development, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to let Ybor City develop as its own thing. Yeah. We're going to take that over, and that's why cigars are the oldest industry in Tampa.
All right, so you do the tour, and I'm sure you have, there's only so much you can fit into the allotted time for the tour. So I'm sure there's some stories that maybe get, they go on the cutting room floor or whatever. But I guess, what are some of your favorite aspects of the tour? Some of your favorite things to impart onto a visitor that's taking the tour? And then maybe what are some of those aspects that don't exactly make the tour, but you're like, man, I really wish we could figure out a way to get this in?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would say probably the biggest thing I try to drive home is like the narrative of the tour is this is something special to Tampa, and it's an American factory.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many places you go to now, and it's like, oh, this is where we're making the new Honda Ridgeline, and it's a bunch of robot arms. Modern robot arms. There's like no UAW people left working and making the cars. But you go to our factory, you have American machines from 100 years ago. You have an American cigar brand that's been the exact same, being sold all over the country for 70 years. You have American workers that have worked there for 20 years. And you have an American factory that's been there for 115. There's so much history there. Yeah. We're in a time where everybody wants to know what's made in America, what's an American product. That is, and it's not going to change anytime soon. And it hasn't changed at all.
Yeah.
But of course, because of that, you have to cut out a lot of stories. Like Stanford Newman, he lived to be 90 years old. He was born in 1916, passed away in 2006.
Wow.
He was the heart and soul of that company until he passed away. And unfortunately, just a lot of his stories don't fit into the modern narrative because he's trying to talk about handmade cigars and Ybor City and all that.
Yeah.
But that guy saw the Great Depression, World War II, the Cuban embargo. And there's so many little things, like every day you go to work, you learn something new about Stanford, especially from the people that have worked there for 25, 30, 40 years. They always have Stanford stories to tell. For example, we have an actual letter in our collection from J. Edgar Hoover to Stanford talking about how he was somebody that the FBI relied upon back in the 50s and 60s when Tampa was kind of a hotbed for some, let's say, subversive political activities. There were a lot of communists organizing in Tampa at the time.
Yeah.
And so these cigar manufacturers were kind of the front line against that, against subversion and things like that. And then, of course, well, yeah, Ybor City. And,
yeah, I mean, obviously, Ybor City has a colorful history. I mean, there was something on the tour I remember. I don't remember exactly, but there was like a rug that you guys found, and you like pulled up the rug, and all of a sudden there was like a trap door under, and there was this whole other area that you guys had never seen before, but had been there for a long time.
Yeah, we bought the building as is in 1953 with all its quirks, and that also includes there's a working functional trap door that goes from our conference room down to the basement.
Oh.
So the story that Stanford always told is that back in the old days, Tampa cigar factories would pay their employees in cash. And so if you worked, you made $15 a week or whatever. But all those cigar makers in your building, there's like 800 of them, means there's a lot of cash payroll for the mafia to come in and steal. So if you knew the mafia was coming to hit you up and rob you, you'd hide your money, you'd hide your Cuban tobacco, your financial papers, whatever you had to hide in the basement. And so that's why we think it's there. But now it's just like if a meeting goes too long, you just sneak out the back. Nobody even knows you've left, you know?
I remember hearing that story and I'm thinking, okay, so you picked that rug up and finally like, I'm looking through every single rug in this place and like pulling it up to see what else is in this old historic building.
Yeah, exactly.
One of my favorite parts of the tour is the bag of Cuban tobacco that you have, which is that like the only bag of Cuban tobacco that's left?
Only legal bale of Cuban tobacco in the United States. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and we almost didn't get it because it was right around the time of the embargo that we had our last shipment coming up from Cuba, and we basically had to sneak that tobacco in. We had it in Havana, but it hadn't come up yet, and we were basically fearful the State Department would impound our boat if it made it there too late.
Yeah.
So, and Stanford used to go there all the time, but the last time that he went, I think, he was detained and held by some guys with machine guns for like 2 hours because they're like, why do you keep going back and forth between Tampa and Havana? What are you, some sort of spy? He's like, no, I'm just buying tobacco, I promise. And, he finally got on the plane, no problem. And then they boarded the plane again. And they pulled some random guy off, and then he's never seen again. Yeah. So after that, Stanford's like, yeah, I'm not going back to Cuba.
Right,
and then after that was 1962, and we never saw Cuba again.
Yeah. So. I mean, is there a little temptation to just open up that bag and take a little bit? And there's no way that tobacco would still be smokable now, would it?
No. Tobacco loses a lot of its flavor after like 15, 20 years.
Yeah,
it gets
so
really,
it's just
really
there
mild.
For nostalgia purposes, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Just to prove, if anybody asks, we still have Cuban tobacco.
Right.
Not anything you're smoking. It's in our basement, you know?
More of a memento.
Yeah, no, but it always cracks me up. Whenever you read these like magazine articles about cigars, they're like, today we're smoking a Romeo and Juliet from 1928, and it tastes like graphite and minerals. It's like, because there's no flavor left. It's a 100-year-old cigar, of course. You know, so there's that. But yes, we still have Cuban tobacco.
Yeah. And another fascinating part, at least to me, was that you don't get, you think tobacco in the United States, you think Virginia, North Carolina, you think of Tobacco Road, and that's not where you're getting your tobacco. It's like Connecticut, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like Pennsylvania, what were some like the big states for tobacco where you're getting it?
Yeah, exactly. Tobacco for cigars has been grown in Connecticut since the 1700s.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very old thing up there, and there's still a lot of these old multi-generational families. Like we buy ours from a company called Dunn & Foster, 300 years, I think, growing tobacco on that same piece of land.
Wow.
And they're actually world famous for it. Connecticut has some of the best quality tobacco ever. If the Cubans could, they'd actually buy our tobacco rather than the other way around, because Connecticut broadleaf and Connecticut shade, the two types we get from Connecticut, are really that high quality.
Really?
And
have
then,
you ever had like actual Cuban tobacco that you've been able to compare the two?
Yeah. You get Cuban cigars.
Yeah.
You get a lot of Canadians who come and visit.
Allegedly.
Yeah. So they say. But yeah, like one of these cigars here, one of these is shade tobacco, is like real Connecticut shade, and it's super, super like smooth and unlike any other cigar in the world.
So you brought some presents. I know we're not going to smoke them because we can't smoke in the office, unfortunately.
No.
But yeah, big fail on our
down the
part.
building.
But so if you're listening to this, this is probably maybe not the most compelling talk right now, but if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that we have some cigars that are from this is going to be for the 250th anniversary of the United States, which is going to be coming up in 2026. So this is like a special limited edition cigar. Tell us about this that's going to be available in 26.
Yeah, so Drew actually worked up in DC for a little bit, so he has some contacts in government. But we were able to get in correspondence with the Semi-Quintennial Commission for the America's 250th birthday, and we became the official licensed cigar maker for America's birthday.
Awesome.
And so all the Tampa handmade cigars, like the American, the Angel Cuesta, the Leroy Neiman, the Tampa Smokers, all of those will be 250th Semi-Quintennial cigars starting in January.
And those are all in here?
Mm-hmm. Yep, these are boxes we're selling right now in the store. I don't know if they've gone out to any other shops. Maybe they'll have them at somewhere like Grand Cathedral or Corona, but each one comes with an official certificate of authenticity and the 250th label. And I didn't know how serious this was. You have to report every single box you sell to the U.S. government.
Really?
Oh,
yeah, like the
interesting.
Semi-Quintennial Commission has to know, like, to make sure, I guess, you're not like selling counterfeits or trying to make a quick buck.
Yeah. You mentioned Tampa Smokers. You have I remember on the tour there was the Tampa Smoker that's
the baseball bat.
Yeah, it looks like a baseball bat. That's so cool. And I mean, you talk about the history and the legacy of cigars, and you have a baseball team that's named the Tampa Smokers, and it just works because that's what people did at that time. That was the main industry. It was,
when you look at all of Tampa's baseball greats, like Lou Piniella, Tino Martinez, Tony La Russa, Al Lopez, these are guys that are clearly descended from Cuban, Spanish, and Italian cigar makers who came here in the 1800s. You know, and it's just, and it's even, I'm sure, Fred McGriff or Wade Boggs, I'm sure somewhere in their family they know somebody who had something to do with cigars.
Absolutely.
It's Tampa.
Yeah. So. And in addition to all of the great stuff that you guys have going on at J.C. Newman, you also have a building across the street from your factory that was in disrepair and was probably maybe going to be torn down. The city decided they needed to preserve this, and you guys were given a grant. You said, we can do something with this. You guys were given a grant where now you're going to turn it into like kind of a cigar boutique hotel with like a lounge and restaurant and all that.
Yeah, exactly. It was originally a boarding house for the cigar makers from 1910.
Okay.
And it pretty much looks like it. So we're trying to work we're trying to work on it and bring it back to life. And actually we've just entered our final stage of construction. So we'll finish the exterior, finish the interior, and then begin building it out for our opening in November 2026. And Eric Newman.
November 26th.
November 2026.
That sounds pretty aggressive.
Yeah, well, if anybody can do it, it's the Newmans.
Yes, it is.
Eric Newman's got this just terrible joke. He's like, back in the day, that was a boarding house, a package store, like a liquor store, a bar, this seedy like nightclub, and a brothel. We're bringing back everything except for the brothel. I'm like, no, Eric, we can't say that. But yes, the top floor will be 11 king-size bedrooms.
Yeah.
And the bottom floor will be a cigar lounge named after Stanford called Stanford's, and a restaurant named after Stanford's wife and Eric and Bobby's mother, Elaine. So it'll be Elaine's restaurant, Stanford Cigar Club, and the Inn at El Reloj.
And what a cool thing. I mean, you already have something that's so unique and so cool and so Tampa, this cigar factory. And now you're going to have a boutique hotel that's geared around cigars.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to smoke the cigars that you get at J.C. Newman. You can go back over to the hotel property and enjoy them there. You can have a nice dinner. It's just something that you don't get anywhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it'll be something that really opens the way for us to have all sorts of fun things like cigar dinners and new cultural events. And we've really got a great team of events coordinators now that not just organize the weddings, but also help organize our after hours events there. And they're going to be taking point on the bar and restaurant across the street.
That's awesome. So. And it'll just amplify the culture that's already kind of blooming in Tampa right now, and just the visitation of people wanting to come and experience the whole, just, I don't know, just like the creation of these cigars and just the true history of Tampa. So it's just kind of going to amplify that, which is great.
We're working very closely with the East Tampa CDC right now too. And we're supposed to be hiring mostly people from the local neighborhood too. So we'll probably have to have 30 to 50 more employees for that kind of hospitality annex. We're now actually officially a separate company. So there's J.C. Newman Cigar Company and J.C. Newman Hospitality, and that's going to have its own staff of bartenders, waiters, hotel employees, things like that. And probably they're all going to come from East Tampa.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's very exciting. Giving back to the community.
Yeah. As Visit Tampa Bay, we're here to back you fully, 100%. So
yeah. And we're going to send more and more journalists, media, fams. We love sending them to you. They always come away like, that was unbelievable. That was like one of the best tours I've ever had.
We get the best feedback.
Yeah.
There's that old restaurant in Ybor City, the Tropicana, remember?
Yeah.
And they had like a back table in the corner that was always reserved for the Traficantes if they ever needed it, right? That's supposedly where he would hold court or whatever. We'll have a VTB table. Don't worry. We'll have a in the back corner. We'll have a VTB
yeah,
table.
we go.
Holden, thank you so much. It's been I've gotten to know you a little bit just from coming with some of the journalists that we bring over and doing the tour and just like being captivated by for an hour and a half while you're taking me around the factory. But thank you for imparting your knowledge on us and for having this uniquely Tampa experience that we can share with visitors and people all over the world.
Yeah,
pleasure,
one of our
guys.
2025 hospitality heroes.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those that don't know, we had 9 hospitality heroes, people throughout the Tampa Bay community that really exemplify what it means to be a hospitality worker here in Tampa Bay and really shine an enormous spotlight on one industry or another within Tampa Bay. And Holden was very much deserving of that designation.
Thank you so
And I
much.
love the videos where they come in and like you were doing a tour and you had no idea this was coming, and then your whole
great.
company comes out and surprises you in the middle of the tour and lets you know that you're going to be one of these hospitality heroes, and very well deserved.
Thank you. But it's they always say it's like rookie of the year. It's kind of a curse. Nobody ever does it twice.
Yeah.
Twice in a row.
We'll have to come up with something new.
Yes,
maybe
we will.
Maybe we'll have to do like a Hall of Fame or something like that, and then
Yes,
Holden can be
exactly.
our inaugural class into the Tampa Bay Hospitality Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
All right. And that's another episode of Unlocking Tampa Bay. Join us next time as we unlock more treasures around Tampa Bay.